Found out my husband was cheating with my sister. I left. 8 years later, they came crawling back to save her life. I looked her in the eye and said, "Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, grab a warm cup of tea and get comfortable. I'd love to know what time of day you're watching this video. Please comment M for morning, A for afternoon, or E for evening. Now, let me take you into this story. The smell of the hospital was the first thing that hit me. It was that specific mix of antiseptic, floor wax, and stale coffee that always makes your stomach turn. But it wasn't the smell that made me want to vomit. It was the people standing in front of me. My mother, Linda, looked older, her face lined with wrinkles that hadn't been there the last time I saw her. My father, Robert, looked like a ghost of the man I used to know. And then there was the doctor, looking at me with a hopeful expression that made my skin crawl. They were looking at me like I was a savior. Like I was an angel sent from above. But I wasn't an angel. I was just a woman who had been dragged back into a hell I thought I had escaped 8 years ago. They wanted something from me. Something big. A kidney. Specifically, my kidney, to save the life of the person lying in that hospital bed. My sister, Melanie. The woman who had destroyed my life with a smile on her face. The doctor cleared his throat, waiting for my answer. My parents held their breath, their eyes pleading, begging for me to be the good daughter one last time. I looked at them, then I looked at the closed door of the hospital room where Melanie lay dying. I took a deep breath, and I gave them my answer. But before I tell you what I said, and the shock that nearly stopped their hearts, you have to understand why I was standing there in the first place. To understand the ending, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to the moment my perfect little life started to crack. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate you being here to listen to my story. Before I continue, please take a second to comment down below and let me know what city or state you are listening from. It is always so amazing to see how far these stories travel. Now, let's go back 8 years. My name is Valerie. At the time this all started, I was 32 years old, and I prided myself on having my life together. I am a certified public accountant, a CPA. My world is built on logic, numbers, and balance sheets. In my line of work, if the numbers don't add up, you find the error, you fix it, and you move on. I applied that same logic to my life. I had a steady career, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and a husband, Derek, who I had been married to for 6 years. We were, by all accounts, a solid team. We had our usual couple drama, sure, but we had grown from it. I thought we had a loving, unshakable relationship. Everything was going according to plan until about 8 months prior to the end of my marriage. That was when my younger sister, Melanie, moved back to our hometown. Melanie was 28, and she was everything I wasn't. She was chaotic, flashy, and lived entirely on impulse. She had been living in Florida since she was 18, chasing sunshine and bad relationships. She came home because her long-term boyfriend had dumped her and moved to a new city, leaving her destitute. When Melanie showed up on my parents' doorstep with nothing but a few suitcases and a sob story, the dynamic in our family shifted instantly. Or rather, it reverted to exactly what it had always been. You see, in my family, roles were assigned at birth. Melanie was the golden child. I was the scapegoat. It wasn't obvious abuse, just a million little cuts that bled me dry over the years. I remember when we were teenagers. When I turned 16, I got an 8-year-old Dodge Neon that smelled like wet dog. I was grateful for it, of course. But 2 years later, when Melanie turned 16, my parents bought her a 2-year-old Mitsubishi Eclipse. Red. Convertible. When I asked about the difference, my mom just waved her hand and said, "Melanie needs a reliable car, Valerie. You know how she is." Yes, I knew how she was. Helpless by choice. So, when she came back from Florida, the pattern repeated. She told us her ex-boyfriend had been cheating on her with men. It sounded tragic, and my mother ate it up. I didn't know the guy well. I had only met him a few times during holidays, but he never struck me as someone living a double life. But who was I to judge? I tried to be supportive. I tried to be the good big sister. Melanie moved back in with my parents, but she was constantly complaining about money. She had no job, no savings, and no plan. One night, at a family dinner, the trap was set. We were sitting around my parents' dining table, picking at a roast chicken, when my mom, Linda, let out a heavy sigh. "Valerie," she said, looking at me with those puppy dog eyes she used when she wanted something. "Melanie is really struggling. She needs a break. She needs a job." "I know, Mom," I said, cutting a piece of chicken. "The market is tough right now." "Well," Mom continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Derek is a higher-up at his company. Surely he has some pull? Couldn't he get Melanie a position in his department?" I felt a knot form in my stomach. Mixing family and business was a violation of every rule in my CPA handbook. It was messy. It was risky. I looked at Derek. He was chewing his food, looking unbothered. "I don't know," I started to say. "Derek's company has strict hiring policies." "Oh, nonsense," my father, Robert, chimed in. He was a spineless man who echoed whatever my mother said. "It's just an administrative role. Derek, you can help family, can't you?" Derek wiped his mouth with a napkin and smiled. "I think there might be an opening in my department. I can pull some strings." "See?" Mom clapped her hands together. "Derek is such a good man." "Thank you, Derek. Melanie will be so relieved." I looked at my husband, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and apprehension. "Are you sure?" I asked him later in the car. "It's fine, Val," he said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "She's your sister. We should help her get back on her feet. Plus, it'll make your mom happy." I squeezed his hand back, thinking I had the best husband in the world. I didn't know that by inviting my sister into his office, I was essentially handing him a loaded gun and pointing it at my own head. The first month of Melanie working at Derek's company seemed fine on the surface. She was actually qualified for the job, or at least qualified enough to not get fired immediately. She was working in the same department as Derek, which meant they saw each other every day. At first, I thought this was a good thing. Maybe Derek could keep an eye on her, make sure she was actually doing her work and not taking 3-hour lunch breaks like she used to do at her old jobs. But then, the boundaries started to dissolve. Slowly at first, like sugar in hot tea. Melanie began spending more and more time at our house. It started with her catching a ride home with Derek because her car wouldn't start or she didn't have gas money until her first paycheck cleared. They would walk through the front door together, laughing about something that happened at the office. "Oh, Val, you should have seen the look on the boss's face today," Melanie would say, kicking off her shoes in my entryway like she lived there. She would throw her purse on my kitchen counter, my meticulously organized granite counter, and flop onto the sofa. "Yeah," Derek would chuckle, loosening his tie. It was priceless. I would be standing there in my apron, having just finished cooking dinner after my own long day at the firm, and I would smile politely. "That sounds funny. What happened?" And then they would look at each other, share a quick, knowing glance, and say, "Oh, it's just a work thing. You wouldn't get it." I felt a little prick of annoyance, but I brushed it off. It was just a work joke. I had work jokes with my colleagues too. But the frequency increased. Melanie started staying for dinner 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. She would sit at my dining table, eating the food I paid for and cooked, and dominate the conversation with Derek. They talked about projects, coworkers, office gossip. I sat there, quietly eating my pasta, feeling like a third wheel in my own marriage. I tried to include myself. I asked questions. So, how is the new marketing strategy going? I asked one night. Melanie rolled her eyes playfully. Boring stuff, sis. You don't want to hear about boring corporate strategy. Let's talk about you. How was accounting? The way she said accounting made it sound like I spent my day watching paint dry. It was fine, I said, my voice tight. I saved a client from a massive tax liability today. Riveting, Melanie smirked. Then she turned back to Derek. Hey, did you see that email from Sarah? The one with the typo? And just like that, I was invisible again. But it wasn't just the dinners. It was the physical space she took up. She started leaving things at our house. A sweater on the back of a chair. Her favorite brand of soda in our fridge. One day, I found her charger plugged into the wall next to Derek's side of the bed. Why is Melanie's charger in our bedroom? I asked Derek that night. He shrugged, not looking up from his phone. Oh, her phone was dying while we were going over some files earlier. She must have forgot it. You were going over files in our bedroom? I asked, raising an eyebrow. No, Val, relax, he said, finally looking at me with a hint of irritation. We were in the living room. I just brought it up here later because I thought it was mine. They all looked the same. It was a plausible explanation. Logical. But it didn't sit right with me. I started to notice changes in Derek too. He started dressing better for work. He bought new cologne. He started going to the gym more often. When I complimented him, he said he just wanted to stay competitive in the corporate world. And then there were the projects. Melanie and Derek suddenly had a lot of urgent projects that required them to work late. Or so they said. The problem was, our schedules were different. Derek worked a traditional 8-to-5 job. I worked later, usually 10 to 7, especially during tax season. I started coming home at 7:30 to find Melanie's car in the driveway. I would walk in, and they would be sitting on the couch, laptops open, but not much typing happening. The air in the room always felt charged, thick with an energy I couldn't identify. When I walked in, the energy would snap, dissipating into awkward silence. Hey, Derek would say, jumping up a little too quickly. We were just finishing up. Yeah, Melanie would chime in, closing her laptop. Just grinding away. You know how it is, sis. I looked at her. She was wearing a tank top that I didn't recognize. It looked suspiciously like one of my old ones from college. Is that my shirt? I asked. Oh, yeah, she laughed, tugging at the strap. I spilled coffee on mine earlier. Derek let me borrow something of yours. Hope you don't mind. She was wearing my clothes. In my house. With my husband. It's fine, I said, though my jaw was clenched so tight I thought I might crack a tooth. Just wash it before you return it. I told myself I was being paranoid. She was family. He was my husband. They were just working. But deep down, the accountant in me knew that the numbers weren't adding up. The human mind has an incredible capacity for denial. Even when the red flags are waving right in your face, painted in neon and screaming, you find ways to look past them. You tell yourself you're stressed. You tell yourself you're being insecure. You tell yourself that the people you love wouldn't do this to you. That was the phase I entered next, the gaslighting phase. It had been about a month since Melanie started hanging out at our house every single day. The work projects were becoming more frequent. I was getting home from work tired, my brain fried from staring at spreadsheets all day, only to walk into a house that didn't feel like mine anymore. I decided to confront Derek about the frequency of her visits. Not about cheating, I wasn't ready to say that word out loud yet, but about boundaries. Derek, I said one evening after Melanie had finally left. We need to talk about Melanie. He sighed, dropping his head back against the sofa cushion. What now, Val? She's here every day, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I come home from work, and she's here. We never have any time alone anymore. It feels like we have a roommate. Derek looked at me like I was being unreasonable. She's going through a hard time, Val. She's lonely. She just got out of a terrible relationship. She needs family right now. I get that, I said. But does she have to be here every single night? Can't she stay at Mom and Dad's? Your parents drive her crazy, Derek said, standing up and walking to the kitchen to get a glass of water. She feels safe here. She feels comfortable with us. Why are you so unsupportive of your own sister? It's kind of ugly, honestly. That stung. He was twisting it, making me the bad guy. I am not unsupportive. I got her the job, didn't I? I feed her constantly. I miss my husband. Derek softened slightly, walking back over to hug me. I'm right here, babe. I'm not going anywhere. We're just helping her out. It's temporary. Once she gets on her feet and meets someone new, she won't be around as much. Just be patient. Okay, I whispered into his chest, smelling that new cologne he had started wearing. Okay. But the work stuff kept happening. And then, the timing started to get suspicious. My schedule was 10 to 7. Derek's was 8 to 4:30. That meant there was a window of time, from 4:30 to 7, where I wasn't home, but they were off work. One Tuesday, I called Derek at 5 o'clock. He didn't answer. I called again at 5:30. Straight to voicemail. I texted him, "Everything okay?" No reply. When I got home at 7:15, Melanie's car was in the driveway. I walked inside, and they were in the kitchen. Derek was cooking, something he rarely did on weeknights. He was making pasta. Melanie was sitting on the counter, not a stool, sipping a glass of wine. My wine. Hey! Derek said, looking a little flushed. We decided to make dinner for you since you were working late. I called you, I said, putting my bag down. You didn't answer. Oh, my phone was on silent, he said quickly. We were really focused on this presentation for tomorrow. Sorry. I looked at the table. There were papers spread out, sure. But there was also a vibe in the room that I couldn't shake. It was too domestic. Too intimate. Why are you sitting on the counter? I asked Melanie. She hopped down, smoothing her skirt. Just keeping the chef company. Relax, sis. You look so tense. You need a drink. She poured me a glass of wine, acting like the hostess in my own home. Later that night, I asked Derek again. Are you sure nothing is going on? You and Melanie seem really close lately. He looked me dead in the eye, his face a mask of hurt and disbelief. Valerie, that is disgusting. She is your sister. How can you even think that? You know I love you. You're letting your stress from work bleed into our marriage. You're sounding paranoid, and it's really unattractive. I felt a wave of shame wash over me. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was paranoid. Incest was a taboo for a reason, it was unthinkable. He was right, it was a disgusting thought. I apologized. I told him I was just tired. I promised to do better. He kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt benevolent and forgiving. It's okay, he said. I know you're tired. Just trust me. I wanted to trust him. I really did. But trust is like a mirror, once you see a crack in it, you can't stop looking at the reflection to see if it's distorted. And 2 months ago, I saw something that shattered the mirror completely. 2 months ago, I noticed something that had me questioning my own sanity. As I mentioned, I am a CPA. I am detail-oriented by nature and by trade. I like order. I like systems. One of my systems is how I make the bed every morning before I leave for work. It's a ritual. I smooth the sheets, fluff the duvet, and I always place the pillows so that the open side of the pillowcase is facing toward the edge of the bed, away from the center. It's a small thing, maybe a little obsessive, but I like the clean lines it creates. It was a Thursday. I had left for work at 9:30. The bed was made perfectly, as always. Pillowcases facing out. That day, Melanie had been over. When I got home at 7, she had already eaten dinner with us, takeout this time, and then went back to my parents' house around 9. Derek and I got ready for bed. As I walked into the bedroom to turn down the covers, I stopped. The bed looked made. To the untrained eye, it looked exactly as I had left it. But then I looked closer at the pillows. The two main pillows were there, but the cases were switched. The open side of the pillowcases were facing toward the middle of the bed. My heart skipped a beat. A cold sensation trickled down my spine. I stood there, staring at the pillows. Had I done that? No. I have done it the same way for 6 years. Muscle memory doesn't just glitch like that. I walked over to the bed and touched the sheets. They felt cool, but they looked slightly less crisp than usual. Like someone had smoothed them out in a hurry. I turned around and walked back into the hallway where Derek was brushing his teeth in the bathroom. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice casual, though my pulse was hammering in my neck. "Did you take a nap today?" He spat out the toothpaste and rinsed his mouth. He looked at me in the mirror. He looked a little shook, a momentary flicker of panic in his eyes before he masked it. "No," he said, wiping his mouth. "Why do you ask?" "The bed isn't the same as I made it this morning," I said. "The pillows are moved." He turned around, leaning against the sink, crossing his arms. Defensive posture. "Val, I didn't touch the bed. I haven't been in the bedroom since this morning. You must have just made it differently today and forgot." "I didn't," I said firmly. "I never make it that way." "Well, no one was in the bed," he said, his voice rising slightly. "Are you seriously accusing me of something because of a pillow? Do you hear yourself? You sound crazy." "Then why are they moved?" I insisted. "Maybe the cleaning lady came," he suggested. "We don't have a cleaning lady, Derek," I snapped. "Then you're mistaken," he shouted. "My God, Valerie. Stop looking for problems where there aren't any." He stormed past me into the bedroom, ripped the covers back, and got into bed, turning his back to me. "I'm going to sleep. I'm not dealing with your neuroses tonight." I stood in the hallway, shaking. I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't crazy. I waited until he was asleep. I listened to his breathing deepen, the steady rhythm of a man with a clear conscience, or a man who is a very good liar. I crept out to the living room and grabbed his laptop. I knew his password, it was his birthday. I opened it and started digging. I checked his email. Nothing. I checked his browser history. Cleared. I checked his messages. Just mundane texts about work, sports, and a few group chats. Then I went to his phone, which he had left charging on the nightstand. I carefully unplugged it and took it to the bathroom. I went through everything. Texts, calls, photos, deleted folders. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The text thread with Melanie was disturbingly innocent. "Melanie, hey, running late for work." Derek, "Okay, see you there." Melanie, "Can you help me with this spreadsheet later?" Derek, sure. It was too clean. They worked together 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Then they hung out after work. Why would they need to text? They did all their talking in person. Or, they were using an app one didn't know about. I sat on the cold tile floor of the bathroom at 2 in the morning, holding his phone, feeling like I was losing my mind. Was I crazy? Maybe I did make the bed wrong. Maybe I was just stressed and projecting. But then I remembered the smell in the bedroom when I had first walked in. It was faint, almost imperceptible. But underneath the smell of our laundry detergent, there was something else. A hint of vanilla and coconut. Melanie's body lotion. I wasn't crazy. They had been in our bed. In the middle of the day. In the house that I paid the mortgage on. I put the phone back. I got into bed next to him. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, tears streaming silently down my face into my ears. I knew. But I needed proof. Irrefutable, concrete proof. Because in a divorce, especially with assets involved, you don't win with the pillows were wrong. You win with evidence. For the next 2 weeks, I was an actor in my own life. I smiled. I made coffee. I kissed Derek goodbye in the morning. I asked about his day. But inside, I was screaming. I was watching them like a hawk, cataloging every glance, every pause, every interaction. The breaking point, the moment I knew I wasn't just observing, but witnessing the end of my marriage, happened 2 weeks ago at my parents' house. Mom had invited us over for Sunday dinner. A family bonding night, she called it. I wanted to say no, but I needed to see them together outside of my house. I needed to see if they would slip up. The dinner was excruciating. My dad was droning on about his garden. My mom was criticizing my hair. Melanie was sitting across from Derek, looking radiant and smug. She was wearing a dress that was a little too short, a little too tight. It was going fine until after dessert. I was helping Mom clear the table. Derek got up to use the restroom. Melanie had gotten up a moment before to get a glass of water from the kitchen. They collided in the hallway. I was standing in the dining room doorway, holding a stack of dirty plates. They didn't see me. I was in the shadows. Ryan was simply walking by, and sorry, Melanie lightly grabbed his arm to stop him. It wasn't a grab like, hey, wait up. It was a caress. Her fingers lingered on his bicep. He turned to her. He didn't pull away. He leaned in. She whispered something to him. I couldn't hear what it was, but I saw the way her lips moved. It was intimate. It was secret. And then, for a split second, literally 1 second, they touched foreheads together. It was a gesture of such profound intimacy, something couples do when they are in love and sharing a private moment of adoration. It was soft. It was tender. It was sickening. Ryan suddenly jolted up, as if he remembered where he was. He pulled back, looked around nervously, and kept walking toward the bathroom. Melanie stayed there for a second. She smoothed her hair. Then she turned around to come back to the dining room. She saw me. I was frozen, the plates heavy in my hands. I stared at her, my eyes wide, my mouth slightly open. I had caught them. But Melanie didn't look scared. She didn't look guilty. She looked at me, and she smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a smirk. A predator's smile. A smile that said, yeah, I did it. What are you going to do about it? He's mine. She walked past me, bumping my shoulder lightly. Here, let me help you with those plates, Val, she said loudly, for our parents to hear. You look tired. I went numb. I felt a cold rage settle in my chest, replacing the anxiety. I wasn't an idiot. I knew this was a mountain of red flags. I knew my marriage was over. I had been in love with my husband since I was 21 years old. I had built a life with him. And now, he was sharing forehead touches with my sister in my parents' hallway. I didn't make a scene. Not there. Not then. My parents would just deny it. They would say I was seeing things. They would say, "Oh, they're just close siblings-in-law." No. I needed him to say it. I needed to hear the words come out of his mouth. I finished washing the dishes. I drove home with Derek. He chattered about the food, completely unaware that I had seen everything. "I was thinking," I said, interrupting him as we pulled into our driveway. "We haven't had a getaway in a while. Just the two of us." Derek looked surprised. "Oh. Like a vacation?" "Just a weekend," I said, forcing a smile. "Maybe go to the city. Stay in a nice hotel. Go dancing. Reconnect." I saw the guilt flash in his eyes. He hesitated. Yeah, that sounds good, Val. We should do that." I planned the weekend getaway for the following Friday. I booked a nice hotel. I made reservations. I wasn't planning a romantic escape. I was planning an interrogation. I really hoped it wasn't what I was thinking. Part of me, the pathetic part that still loved him, hoped there was an explanation. But the logical part of me, the CPA part, knew better. I was bringing him to a neutral location, away from Melanie, away from distractions, to drop the bomb. The drive to the city was tense, at least for me. Derek seemed to be trying too hard. He was overly attentive, playing my favorite songs, holding my hand across the center console. It felt like a performance. Every time he touched me, I wanted to flinch, but I forced myself to hold still. I needed this to play out perfectly. We checked into the hotel on Friday evening. It was a beautiful suite with a view of the skyline. We went to a nice dinner. We had drinks. We danced. For a few hours, the alcohol blurred the sharp edges of my reality. We went back to the room. We were intimate. And that is something I will regret for the rest of my life. In the moment, I think I was trying to reclaim him. Or maybe I was testing him. Or maybe I just wanted to feel close to my husband one last time before I blew everything up. But the next morning, as the sun streamed through the hotel curtains, the weight of what I had done, sleeping with a man who was emotionally cheating on me with my sister, made me feel dirty. We ordered room service. We were sitting at the small table by the window, drinking coffee. We were almost ready to start our Saturday. Derek was talking about going to a museum. I put my coffee cup down. The clinking sound against the saucer was loud in the quiet room. "Derek," I said. My voice was calm. Surprisingly calm. He looked up, smiling. "Yeah, babe? Are you having an affair with Melanie?" The silence that followed was deafening. It wasn't just quiet, it was a vacuum. I saw the blood drain from his face. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked at the door, then at me. He didn't deny it immediately. That was the nail in the coffin. If he were innocent, he would have laughed. He would have been confused. He would have said, "What? No! That's insane." Instead, his eyes filled with tears. "Val." His voice cracked. "Yes or no," I said. "Don't lie to me." "I know. I saw you two at Mom and Dad's. I know about the pillows. Just tell me the truth. Are you having an affair with my sister?" He put his head in his hands. His shoulders started to shake. Yes. My heart didn't break, it was crushed. Pulverized. Even though I knew, hearing the word yes was a physical blow. It felt like he had punched me in the chest. Why? I whispered. It was the only word I could get out. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. Honest to God, Val. We clicked. We started talking at work, and she really understood me. And before I knew it, we were kissing. Then more. It just spiraled. She understood you? I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. She's been unemployed for 10 years and lives off drama. What does she understand about you? The fact that you're weak? He flinched. Don't say that. We love each other. You love her? I asked, feeling the bile rise in my throat. I didn't want to hurt you, he sobbed. I was trying to figure out how to tell you. How long? I asked. 3 months, he said. Did you sleep with her in our house? I asked. The question that had been haunting me. He looked down at his lap. Look at me, I commanded. Did you sleep with my sister in our bed? The bed I sleep in? Before I got home from work? He just turned his head in shame, refusing to meet my eyes. That was a yes. A wave of pure nausea hit me. I stood up. I felt like I needed to scrub my skin with bleach. I grabbed my purse. Where are you going? He asked, panic in his voice. I'm leaving, I said. I'm going home. Val, wait, let's talk about this. We can fix this. He stood up, reaching for me. Don't you dare touch me, I hissed. You slept with my sister in my bed. There is no fixing this. We are done. I want a divorce. Val, please. How am I supposed to get home? He asked, looking pathetic. We had driven my car. Take an Uber, I said. Or call Melanie. I'm sure she'd love to pick you up. I walked out of the hotel room. I didn't pack my bag. I didn't take my clothes. I just took my purse and my keys. I walked down the hall, took the elevator to the lobby, and walked out to the valet. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the ticket. I drove home alone. The drive that had been tense yesterday was now a blur of tears and rage. I screamed in the car. I screamed until my throat was raw. When I got back to the house, our house, soon to be my house or no one's house, I went into overdrive. The emotional breakdown happened in the car. Now, the CPA took over. This is what I do. I manage crises. I organize chaos. I knew Derek wouldn't be back for at least a few hours. An Uber from the city would cost him a fortune and take time. First, I went to the bedroom. I stripped the bed. Sheets, pillows, duvet. I bundled it all up and threw it in the trash outside. I couldn't even look at it. Then, I went to the office. I grabbed every financial document I could find. Tax returns, bank statements, the deed to the house, car titles. I knew exactly where everything was. I packed it all into a box and put it in my car trunk. Next, I logged into our bank accounts. We had a joint checking account and a joint savings account. I transferred exactly half of the savings into my personal account, the one I had kept from before we were married. I left him his half. I wasn't going to steal, but I wasn't going to let him drain the account to fund his new life with Melanie. I canceled the joint credit cards. He arrived a few hours later. He took an Uber. He walked in, carrying his bag and my bag from the hotel. He looked exhausted and red-eyed. Valerie, he started, standing in the living room. Please. Can we just sit down? I was sitting at the kitchen island, drinking a glass of water. No. Pack a bag. Get out. This is my house too, he said weakly. I know, I said. And we will let the lawyers figure that out. But right now, you need to leave. Because if you stay here tonight, I might actually kill you. And I don't want to go to prison for you. He looked at me and saw that I wasn't joking. The fear in his eyes was satisfying. He went to the bedroom. He packed a suitcase. He came back out. I'm going to a hotel, he said. I'll give you some space. Don't bother, I said without looking up. Go to Melanie's. I know that's where you're going anyway. He didn't say anything. He just left. The next day, I told my parents. I drove to their house. I walked in and found them watching TV. I'm divorcing Derek, I said, standing in front of the TV. They didn't look surprised. They looked uncomfortable. We know, Mom said, muting the TV. Melanie told us. She told you? I asked. She came here last night, Dad said. With Derek. So they're here? I looked around, ready to fight. No, Mom said. They went to stay at a friend's place. Until things settled down. Things settled down? I laughed, a harsh, barking sound. Mom, he cheated on me. With my sister. Your daughter. I know, Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. It's terrible. But these things happen, Valerie. You can't control who you fall in love with. I stared at her. Are you serious? You're defending them? I'm not defending them, she said. I'm just saying. Melanie has had such a hard life. Maybe Derek is the one who can finally save her. You're strong, Valerie. You have your career. You have money. Melanie has nothing. Maybe this is for the best. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think I should be happy that my sister stole my husband because she needs saving? Don't be dramatic, Mom snapped. I walked out. That was the beginning of the end of my relationship with them. Ryan found an apartment to rent right away, and Star moved in with him immediately. That all happened 3 months ago. Our divorce is almost final. Derek initially said I could just have the house and the savings. I think that was the guilt talking. But then, after a few days, he changed his tune. He said we would have to split the house and the assets 50-50ths. I know that was Melanie in his ear. She wanted her cut. But the real knife in the heart came a few days after I found out. I was scrolling through Facebook, bad habit, I know. And I got a notification. Melanie had tagged me in a post. I clicked on it. My stomach dropped. It was a selfie of her and Derek. They were in his new apartment. He was standing behind her, kissing her on the cheek, his arms wrapped around her waist. They looked happy. The caption read, "Finally happy." Sometimes you have to follow your heart, even if it hurts others. #soulmates, #new beginnings, #feeling loved. And she tagged me. She tagged me in the photo of her with my husband. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. It was disgusting. It was cruel. It was a power move. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from Melanie. Sorry sis, didn't mean to tag you. Slip of the finger. No hard feelings, okay? I hope we can still be close. You'll meet your soulmate someday too. I didn't reply. I logged out of my account. I deleted the app off my phone. Then, I blocked her number. I blocked Derek's number. She wasn't sorry. She wanted me to see it. She wanted to win. Blocking them was the first step, but the silence didn't last long. My parents weren't going to let me just fade away without trying to manipulate me one last time. A week after the Facebook incident, I went to my parents' house to pick up some boxes of old childhood things I had stored in their attic. I didn't want to leave anything behind. I wanted a clean break. When I walked in, the atmosphere was heavy. Mom was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of tea. Dad was standing by the window, looking out at the yard. "I'm just here for my boxes," I said, walking straight to the stairs. "Valerie, sit down," Mom said. Her voice wasn't asking, it was commanding. "I'm busy, Mom," I said. "Sit down," she snapped. "We need to talk about this family." I sighed and walked back to the kitchen, leaning against the doorway. "There is no family, Mom. Not anymore." "Stop saying that," she said, her eyes tearing up. "I'm sorry this happened. It shouldn't have happened this way. But your sister deserves to be happy too. You can't hold this against her forever." "She slept with my husband," I said, enunciating every word. "In my bed. And then she posted a picture of it online to mock me. Yes, I can hold it against her forever." "She didn't mean to mock you," Mom said. "She's just excited. She's finally in a stable relationship. Derek takes good care of her. He got her that job, he's paying for the apartment. For the first time, I don't have to worry about her." "So that's what this is about?" I asked, realizing the truth. "You're happy because she's someone else's problem now? You don't care that she destroyed my life, as long as she's off your payroll?" "That's not fair," Dad grumbled from the window. "It's the truth," I said. "You've always enabled her. You gave her the car. You gave her money. And now you're giving her my husband." "We didn't give her anything," Mom said. "They fell in love. And look, Valerie, you're doing fine. You have your job. You're independent. You'll meet someone else. Someone better suited for you. Derek was always, well, he was always a bit simple for you, wasn't he?" I looked at them. Really looked at them. They weren't evil people, maybe. But they were weak. They were selfish. They had chosen their side. They had chosen the golden child, the one who needed them, over the independent child who they thought could handle anything. "I showed you the text she sent me," I said. "The one where she said no hard feelings. You think that's normal?" "Well, you shouldn't be on that social media stuff anyway," Mom said, dismissing me. "It's toxic." "You're toxic," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" Mom looked shocked. I turned to my dad. "Dad? Do you agree with this? Do you think it's okay for Melanie to do this?" My father, the man who I used to think was the strongest person in the world, just looked at his shoes. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I agree with your mother," he mumbled. Then he turned and walked out of the room. That was the moment the cord finally snapped. "Okay," I said. "Okay. So, will you come for Easter?" Mom asked, as if we hadn't just had this conversation. "Melanie and Derek will be here. We can all just break bread and move forward." I laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "No, Mom. I won't be coming for Easter. I won't be coming for Christmas. I won't be coming ever again." "Don't be like that," she called after me as I walked to the door. "You'll get over it. Family is family." I didn't get my boxes. I just walked out to my car. I sat there for a moment, shaking. Then I started the engine. I decided right then and there. I was going full no contact. Not just with Melanie and Derek, but with them too. I was going to sell the house. I was going to move to a different state. I wasn't going to tell them where. I wasn't going to tell them when. I was just going to vanish. I drove away, leaving my parents' house in the rearview mirror. I wished them all the worst. I didn't know then that karma was real. I didn't know that 8 years later, they would come looking for me. And I certainly didn't know that my kidney would become the most valuable asset in our family portfolio. The decision to leave wasn't just about getting away from them, it was about survival. Staying in that town, driving past the places where Derek and I had our first date, seeing the grocery store where Melanie and my mother shopped, it was like living in a haunted house where the ghosts were still alive and posting selfies on Facebook. I needed a hard reset. As a CPA, I treated my life like a failing business entity. The current location was operating at a loss, emotional, mental, and spiritual bankruptcy. The only solution was liquidation and relocation. I put the house on the market. It sold within 3 weeks. The market was hot, and since I had forced the sale as part of the divorce settlement, Derek didn't have much say. I took my share of the equity, money that Melanie probably thought would fund her honeymoon, and I banked it. I chose Minnesota. People asked me, why Minnesota? Do you have family there? The answer was no. That was the point. I chose it because it was cold. I wanted to go somewhere where the winters were harsh, where the air hurt your face, where you had to be tough just to survive. It felt fitting. My heart was frozen, I might as well live in a place that matched. I packed only what fit in my car. I left the furniture. I left the memories. I drove north, watching the landscape change from the rolling hills of Missouri to the flat, expansive cornfields of Iowa, and finally, into the snowy embrace of Minnesota. The first year was hell. I won't lie to you and say it was an empowering eat, pray, love journey. It wasn't. It was lonely. I rented a small one-bedroom apartment in Minneapolis. It was clean, modern, and sterile. White walls. Gray carpet. No warmth. I spent my days working. I found a job at a mid-sized accounting firm. I buried myself in tax codes and audits. Work was safe. Numbers didn't lie. Numbers didn't sleep with your sister. Numbers didn't gaslight you. If a balance sheet didn't balance, there was a reason, and I could find it. I became the first one in the office and the last one to leave. My boss loved me. My colleagues thought I was a machine. But at night, the silence was deafening. I would come home to that empty apartment, make a simple dinner for one, and sit in the quiet. The nightmares were vivid. In my dreams, I would walk into my bedroom and find them there again. Or I would be back at my parents' house, screaming for help, and they would just laugh and hand Melanie a trophy. I woke up sweating, my heart racing, reaching out for a husband who wasn't there. I started therapy about 6 months in. My therapist, Dr. Evans, was a stern older woman who didn't buy into my "I'm fine, just busy" act. "Valerie," she said one session, peering over her glasses. "You have liquidated your past, but you haven't invested in your future. You are hoarding your emotions like you hoard your savings. You need to spend some." She was right. I was functioning, but I wasn't living. I was in a deficit. I started small. I joined a book club. I started going to a local cooking class, something I had always wanted to do but Derek never wanted to try because he was a meat and potatoes guy. I learned to make risotto. I learned to bake sourdough. The process of kneading dough, punching it down, and watching it rise became therapeutic. It was something I could control. Something I could nurture that wouldn't betray me. Slowly, the ice began to thaw. I stopped checking my blocked messages folder. I stopped Googling their names. I started to breathe. I was alone, yes. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't being drained. I was the golden child of my own life, simply because I was the only one in it. It took 2 years. 2 years of rebuilding my credit score, my career, and my sanity. I was 34 years old, a senior manager at my firm, and I had sworn off men. My dating life in Minnesota had been a series of one-and-done coffee dates with men who either talked about their exes too much or didn't talk at all. Then I met Garrett. It wasn't a rom-com meet cute. I didn't drop my files, and he didn't catch them. I was actually auditing his restaurant. Garrett was 39, a chef and owner of The Hearth, a farm-to-table bistro that was struggling with its inventory management, not its food quality. I was sent in to help clean up the books. The first time I saw him, he was in the kitchen, yelling, not in anger, but in passion, about the quality of wild mushrooms. He was covered in flour, his hair was a mess, and he had a focus in his eyes that I recognized. It was the same focus I had when I was hunting for a tax deduction. "You must be the executioner," he said when he saw me standing in the kitchen doorway with my briefcase. He wiped his hands on his apron and extended one. "I'm Garrett." "I'm not the executioner," I said, taking his hand. It was warm and rough, a working man's hand. "I'm the surgeon. I'm here to stop the bleeding." He laughed. It was a big, booming sound that seemed to shake the pots hanging from the ceiling. "Fair enough. Save my life, Doc." We worked together for 3 weeks. I sat in his cramped back office, reorganizing his payroll and vendor contracts. He would bring me food. Not just food, art. A small plate of seared scallops. A bowl of truffle risotto. A slice of lemon tart that made my eyes roll back in my head. "You need to eat," he would say, placing the plate on a stack of invoices. "You look like you survive on coffee and anxiety." "I survive on efficiency," I corrected him, taking a bite. "Oh my God. This is amazing." "I know," he winked. "That's why I'm broke. Good ingredients cost money." "We can fix that," I said. And we did. We fixed the business. And somewhere between the profit and loss statements and the late-night inventory counts, we started fixing each other. Garrett was the anti-Derek. Derek was smooth, corporate, and cared deeply about appearances. Garrett was raw, authentic, and cared about substance. Derek wanted a trophy wife. Garrett wanted a partner. We started dating slowly. I was terrified. I told him early on, "I have baggage. Heavy baggage. The kind you pay extra for at the airport." "I'm strong," he said. "I can carry it." One night, about 6 months into dating, I told him the whole story. The sister. The husband. The parents. The betrayal. I cried, expecting him to look at me with pity or to back away from the drama. Instead, he pulled me into his chest and held me so tight I could barely breathe. "I am so sorry," he whispered into my hair. "They are fools. Absolute fools. Who throws away a diamond to pick up a rock?" Garrett introduced me to his family. He had a twin brother, Jack, who co-owned the restaurant. Jack was loud and funny, the front-of-house charm to Garrett's back-of-house genius. Their parents, avid retirees who spent their time fishing and volunteering, welcomed me with open arms. There was no competition. No golden child. No scapegoat. Just a family that liked each other. "Is this normal?" I asked Garrett after Thanksgiving dinner with his family, where no one had fought, and no one had made a passive-aggressive comment about my weight or my job. "Is what normal?" he asked, driving us home. "Being happy? Being nice to each other?" He smiled and squeezed my hand. "Yeah, Val. This is normal. This is what you deserve." 3 years after I arrived in Minnesota, Garrett proposed. He did it in the kitchen of the restaurant, right after the dinner rush, while we were sharing a bottle of wine and cleaning up. He handed me a small box along with a plate of my favorite dessert. "I want to build a future with you," he said. No secrets. No lies. Just us. I said yes. For the first time in forever, the numbers added up perfectly. It had been 4 years since I left Missouri. 4 years of silence. I had protected my location like a state secret. Only a handful of people knew where I was, a couple of old college friends and one cousin, Sarah, who I thought was neutral. I thought she understood. I was wrong. I came home from work one Tuesday evening to find a thick, cream-colored envelope in my mailbox. My heart stopped when I saw the return address. St. Charles, Missouri. It wasn't just a letter. It was a wedding invitation. The font was curly and pretentious. The honor of your presence is requested at the marriage of Derek Ryan Miller and Melanie Rose. I almost threw up right there in my apartment lobby. The audacity. The sheer, unadulterated audacity. Inside the envelope, there was a photo. A save-the-date style photo. It was Derek and Melanie, hugging in a sunflower field. Melanie was wearing a white sundress, looking up at him adoringly. Derek looked older, tired around the eyes, but he was forcing a smile. But the real kicker was the folded piece of lined notebook paper tucked behind the invite. It was a letter from my mother. I sat on my couch, my hands trembling with rage, and read it. Dearest Valerie, I hope this letter finds you well. Sarah finally gave us your address after we begged her. We have been so worried about you. We know things didn't go the best way possible 4 years ago, but enough is enough. We are a family, and families work through problems. You can't hide forever. Melanie and Derek are getting married. It's going to be a beautiful ceremony. Melanie specifically asked for you. She wants you to be a bridesmaid, just like she was for you. She wants to bury the hatchet. She misses her big sister. Please, Val. Be the bigger person. Come home. Forgive them. Derek is a good man, and they are happy. Don't let your pride ruin this family forever. Love, Mom. I read it twice. Then I started laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone staring into the abyss of human stupidity. She wanted me to be a bridesmaid. At the wedding of my ex-husband and my sister. She wanted me to stand up there, in a matching dress, and support the union of the two people who had traumatized me. Be the bigger person. That phrase triggers a violent reaction in me now. Be the bigger person is just code for let us continue to abuse you without consequence. I didn't cry. I didn't feel sad. I felt a cold, hard clarity. I walked over to my desk. I took out a pair of scissors. I cut the invitation into tiny shreds. I cut the photo of them in the sunflower field until their faces were just confetti. Then I picked up my phone. I dialed my cousin Sarah. Hello, she answered, sounding cheerful. You gave them my address, I said. No, hello. No pleasantries. Val? Oh, look, I'm sorry, Sarah stammered. Your mom was crying. She said she was worried you were dead or something. I just thought. You thought wrong, I interrupted. I told you explicitly that my safety and mental health depended on them not knowing where I was. You violated that trust. Val, come on, they're your parents. And you are blocked, I said. Do not contact me again. Do not give them my phone number. If you do, I will file a harassment suit so fast your head will spin. Goodbye, Sarah. I hung up and blocked her. I threw the confetti of their wedding invitation into the trash can. Then, just to be sure, I emptied my coffee grounds on top of it. I looked at Garrett, who had walked in and was watching me with concern. Everything okay? He asked. Better than okay, I said, dusting off my hands. I just took out the last bag of trash. I didn't respond to the letter. I didn't send a gift. I let them have their wedding. I hoped it rained. 9 months later. That's how long it took for the cracks to show in their fairy tale marriage. I was living with Garrett now. We had moved into a beautiful townhome closer to the restaurant. We were talking about kids. Life was good. Then, there was a knock at the door on a rainy Tuesday evening. Garrett was at the restaurant for the dinner shift. I was home alone, going over the monthly budget. I looked through the peephole and froze. It was Derek. He looked good. Too good. He was wearing a tailored suit, his hair was perfectly styled, and he was holding a bouquet of flowers. But his eyes were frantic. He looked like a man who was drowning and trying to look like he was swimming. I didn't open the door. I called Garrett immediately. He's here, I whispered. Derek is at our door. I'm coming home, Garrett said instantly. Don't open it. No, stay there, I said, feeling a surge of that cold anger again. I can handle this. I just wanted you to know. I hung up and opened the door, leaving the chain lock on. What do you want? I asked through the crack. Derek's face lit up with a pathetic hopefulness. Val. Oh God, it's so good to see you. You look amazing. Minnesota agrees with you. What do you want, Derek? I repeated. You're trespassing. I just want to talk, he pleaded. Please, Val. Just 5 minutes. I drove 10 hours to get here. I didn't ask you to drive, I said. Melanie and I are divorcing, he blurted out. I blinked. I felt the corners of my mouth twitching, fighting back a smirk. Oh. Trouble in paradise already? Did the honeymoon phase end when the credit card bills showed up? She cheated on me, Derek said, his voice trembling. She was unfaithful our whole marriage. Even before the wedding. I figured it out. I found messages. Surprise, surprise, I said flatly. You married a cheater, Derek. You cheated with her. What did you expect? Loyalty? Honor? I know, he said, looking down at his expensive shoes. I made a huge mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Val, I miss you. I miss us. I realized that what we had was real. What I had with her was just a fantasy. It was toxic. And you're telling me this because... I want closure, he said, looking up with teary eyes. I don't expect you to take me back right away. But I thought, maybe we could talk? Get some closure for both of our sakes? Maybe start over as friends? I stared at him. I really looked at him. This man, who had once been my world, now looked like a stranger. A weak, pathetic stranger. Closure? I asked, my voice dangerously low. You want closure? I undid the chain lock and opened the door fully. He took a step forward, thinking he was invited in. I stepped into the doorway, blocking his path. No, I said loudly. I give you no closure. You made your own bed, Derek. Now lie in it. Did you really think that golden hoe of a sister of mine, who has had more visitors than the Holiday Inn, was suddenly going to put up a no vacancy sign just because you put a ring on it? You are even dumber than I thought. He flinched as if I had slapped him. Val, that's harsh. Harsh? I laughed. You destroyed my life. You humiliated me. And now you come here, to my home, with flowers, expecting me to be your emotional tampon because your fantasy girl turned out to be a nightmare? I forgive nothing. I want nothing from you. I don't care if you're sad. I don't care if you're divorced. I am better off now than I ever was with you. You can go to hell. I slammed the door in his face. I locked the deadbolt. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I heard him knocking for a few more minutes. Then, I heard my landlady, Mrs. Gable, in the hallway. She was a feisty 70-year-old who knew my story. "Hey! You!" I heard her yell. "Get away from that door. You're bothering my tenant." "I just need to talk to her," Derek yelled back. "I'm calling the cops," Mrs. Gable screamed. "My nephews are on their way over, and they play linebacker." Scram! I heard footsteps retreating rapidly. I leaned against the door and exhaled. I didn't cry. I felt lighter. I thought that was the end of it. But Derek, in his desperation, was persistent. The next evening, I went to the hearth to have dinner and wait for Garrett to finish his shift. It was a slow Tuesday. I was sitting at my usual corner table, working on my laptop. The door opened, and Derek walked in. He spotted me immediately and beelined for my table. He didn't look as polished as yesterday. He looked unhinged. He pulled out the chair opposite me and sat down without asking. Garrett spotted him instantly from the open kitchen. I saw Garrett's face darken. He wiped his hands and started walking over, his eyes locked on Derek like a missile. "Val," Derek said, ignoring the looming threat of my fiancé. "Please. I have nowhere else to go. She took everything." Garrett arrived at the table. He didn't say a word. He just placed a hand on my shoulder, a silent claim of protection. He looked at Derek. "You need to leave. Now." Derek looked up at Garrett, sizing him up. Garrett was broad-shouldered, with burn scars on his arms and a presence that screamed, "Don't mess with me." Derek shrank back. "I just want to talk to my wife," Derek mumbled. "Ex-wife," Garrett corrected. "And she doesn't want to talk to you." I looked at Derek. I saw the misery in his eyes. And I admit, a dark part of me, the part that had been hurt so badly, wanted to know. I wanted the details. I wanted to feast on the wreckage of their relationship. "Wait, Garrett," I said, putting a hand on his arm. "I've got a question or two." Garrett looked at me, concerned, but he nodded. He stayed standing there, looming over Derek. "What happened, Derek?" I asked, leaning back in my chair. "Tell me. Entertain me." Derek took a breath, thinking he had an opening. "She was having affairs. At least 2. Both married men. One was a client of ours. The other was her personal trainer." "Original," I deadpanned. "This was 2 years into the marriage," Derek continued, his voice bitter. "It was a tough time for me financially. I got passed over for a promotion because of the rumors at work. About us. About how we got together. People didn't trust me." I smirked. "Karma is a bitch, isn't it? Corporate America doesn't like messy people, Derek." "I stuck it out," he whined. "I tried to make it work. But she was spending money faster than I could make it. She wanted a new car. She wanted vacations. I was drowning in debt. And then I found out she was planning to leave me for the trainer. She was trying to frame me for abuse to get a better settlement." I rolled my eyes. Classic Melanie. "So, you're broke?" "She got half," he said. "Half of what was left." Which wasn't much. I had to sell the condo. My savings are gone. Legal fees destroyed me. "And where is she now?" I asked. This was the question I really wanted answered. "She had to move back in with your parents," Derek said, looking disgusted. She's living in her old bedroom. She has no car, no job, and no husband. She's back to square one. A feeling of pure, warm satisfaction spread through my chest. It was better than the risotto. And you? I asked. I'm living in a motel, he admitted. I came here hoping you still had feelings. Val, we were good together. We made sense. I looked at him. We made sense because I carried you, Derek. I managed your life. I managed your ego. And the moment I stopped, you collapsed. I stood up. That's what I wanted to hear. My loser sister is back living at home, miserable. And you are broke and alone. My work here is done. Val, please. Get out, Garrett said. His voice was low, like a growl. Derek looked around. The bartender was staring. 2 waiters were watching. The few customers in the restaurant were looking. He realized he was surrounded. He stood up, tucked his tail between his legs, and turned toward the door. And Derek? I called out. He turned back, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. If you ever come near me again, I said, smiling sweetly. Garrett will feed you into the meat grinder. And I'll write it off as a business expense. He ran. Garrett looked at me and grinned. Business expense? Nice. I'm a good accountant, I shrugged. Time moved on. We healed. We built. Now, I am 40 years old. Garrett and I have been married for 5 years. We have 2 beautiful children, twin boys named Leo and Sam, who are 4 years old. They are chaotic, messy, and loud, and I love them more than I ever thought possible. Garrett's business expanded. We opened a second location of the Hearth, and then a bakery next door. I work part-time as the CFO for our little restaurant empire, managing the finances from a home office so I can be with the boys. My life is full. My family consists of Garrett, the twins, Jack, who is the best uncle ever, and my wonderful in-laws. I haven't spoken to my biological family in 8 years. But just because you flush the toilet doesn't mean the smell doesn't linger sometimes. After the Derek incident, I had peace for a while. But after the twins were born, the flying monkeys started to circle. It started with a message request on Instagram. A profile with no picture, named Grandma Linda Love. I heard you had twins. Boys. My grandsons. Please, Valerie. I just want to see a picture. Your father is heartbroken. I blocked it. Then, emails. Valerie, please. We are getting older. We miss you. We forgive you for leaving. We forgive you? I scoffed to Garrett, showing him the email. They forgive me? Narcissists rewrite history to make themselves the heroes, Garrett said, deleting the email for me. Then came the Facebook requests from random cousins I hadn't spoken to in decades. They were fishing for information. I kept my profiles locked down tight. No public photos. No location tags. But they were persistent. One day, I got a message that slipped through the filters. It was from my mom again, but this time from a new account. Your sister is sick. She needs family. Stop being so selfish and call us. The boys deserve to know their aunt. I replied for the first time in years. My boys have an aunt. Her name is Sarah, Garrett's sister-in-law. They have grandparents who love them and don't play favorites. You do not have any grandchildren here. I am not your daughter. If you want grandchildren, encourage Melanie to get out there and do what she does best. Leave me alone. I blocked that account too. But the messages changed tone recently. They went from guilt-tripping to desperate. We are losing the house. Medical bills are drowning us. We need help. Please, Val. We know you have money. I felt nothing but annoyance. They were like mosquitoes buzzing around a screened porch. I was safe inside, but the noise was irritating. I didn't realize that the buzzing wasn't just noise. It was the sound of a bomb counting down. The bombardment intensified. Melanie started reaching out directly. Dozens of emails. Sis, please. I'm dying. It's not a joke. I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. After 3 weeks of this, curiosity, and perhaps a desire to silence them once and for all, got the better of me. I agreed to a Zoom call. Just me, I emailed back. No kids. No Garrett. Just a screen. And if you start guilt-tripping me about the past, I hang up. I set up the laptop in my home office. Garrett sat just off camera, holding my hand. At 7 p.m., the screen flickered to life. I gasped involuntarily. I expected them to look older. I didn't expect them to look like corpses. My mother, Linda, looked frail, her hair gray and thinning. My father, Robert, looked defeated, slumped in a chair in the background. The house behind them, the kitchen where I grew up, looked cluttered and dirty. But Melanie was unrecognizable. The golden child was gone. In her place was a skeleton. Her skin was a sallow, grayish-yellow color. Her eyes were sunken into dark hollows. Her hair was brittle. She looked 20 years older than her age. "Hi, Val," Melanie croaked. Her voice was weak. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though my stomach churned. "They want to see the kids," Mom interrupted, her voice shrill. "Where are my grandsons?" "No," I said firmly. "I told you. Just me." "What is this about?" Melanie started to cry. "I'm sick, Val. Really sick." "I can see that," I said. "What is it?" "Kidney failure," she whispered. Stage 5. My kidneys are shutting down. I'm on dialysis 3 times a week, but it's not working well. My body is rejecting it. "Why?" I asked. "Genetic?" "Lifestyle," my dad grunted from the back. "Diet pills. Booze. Stress." Melanie glared at him, then looked back at me. "I need a transplant, Val. I've been on the list for 2 years, but I'm O negative. It's rare. The wait list is 5 to 7 years. I don't have that kind of time. The doctor says maybe 6 months." I sat back in my chair. O negative. I was O negative. They knew that. "So that's why you called," I said. "You want my kidney." "We need a donor," Mom sobbed. "We tested. Your dad is the wrong blood type. I'm too old and have high blood pressure. Derek, well, he's gone. You're the only one left. You're her sister. You're a match." "I haven't been tested," I said. "But your sisters." Mom cried. "The odds are high. Please, Val. I know she wronged you. I know we made mistakes. But she is going to die. Is that what you want?" Melanie asked, looking at me with those big, pathetic eyes. "Do you want me to die for what I did?" "We are drowning," Dad spoke up suddenly. "Between her medical bills and us not being able to work because we have to care for her, we're 3 months behind on the mortgage. We're going to lose the house. We thought, maybe if you came back, you could help us figure out the finances too. You're an accountant. You have money." The audacity was breathtaking. They wanted my body part and my wallet. "So," I said slowly, You want me to cut myself open, give her a vital organ, and then pay off your debts? After you told me to get over my husband sleeping with her? Stop being like this. Mom snapped, the old anger flaring up. That was years ago. Why are you so vindictive? It's a kidney, Valerie. You have two. She needs one to live. Please, Melanie whispered. I don't want to die. I'm scared. Come home. Just get tested. If you're not a match, we will never bother you again. I promise. I looked at Garrett. He squeezed my hand tight. His eyes were furious, but he nodded slightly. He knew what I was thinking. I need to think about it, I said to the screen. I'll let you know tomorrow. I ended the call before they could say another word. I closed the laptop and sat in silence. You're not actually considering this, are you? Garrett asked, his voice low. Val, they are vampires. They will drain you dry. I know, I said. I'm not going to give her a kidney, Garrett. I'm not insane. Then why didn't you just say no? Because, I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the peaceful Minnesota street. Because a no over Zoom isn't enough. They won't believe it. They'll think I'm just being petty. They'll spend the rest of their lives blaming me, telling everyone I murdered my sister out of spite. So, I want to be sure, I said. And I want them to see me. I want them to see the life I built. I want to look Melanie in the eye when I deliver the verdict. The next day, I went to a specialized lab in Minneapolis. I paid for an expedited compatibility test. I had my medical records sent over. A week later, the results came back. I sat in my car in the parking lot, holding the envelope. I opened it. HLA match, 6/6. Perfect match. Blood type, compatible. It was almost cosmic humor. Biologically, we were perfect for each other. Spiritually, we were enemies. I was the only person on earth who could save her life. I felt a surge of power. It was intoxicating. For my whole life, I had been the powerless one. The one who had to beg for attention. The one who had to accept scraps. Now, I held the ultimate card. I held life and death in my hands. I went home and told Garrett. I'm a match, I said. He paled. Val. I'm going to go there, I said. I'm going to fly to St. Charles. I'm coming with you, he said immediately. No, I shook my head. This is something I have to do alone. If you're there, they'll focus on you. They'll try to manipulate you, or they'll say you forced me to say no. I need to stand on my own 2 feet in that house. I need to finish this. He didn't like it, but he respected it. Okay. But you keep your phone on. If things get weird, I'm flying down with Jack and a baseball bat. Deal, I smiled. I emailed my parents. I got tested here. Results are in. I am coming to St. Charles to discuss the next steps. Do not tell anyone I am coming. I will meet you at the hospital. They replied instantly. Thank God. Thank you, Valerie. We knew you would do the right thing. We are praying. They thought discussing next steps meant scheduling the surgery. They thought they had won again. The scapegoat had returned to serve the golden child one last time. I booked a first-class ticket. I booked a suite at the nicest hotel in St. Louis, refusing to stay in their house. I rented a luxury car. I wasn't going back as the daughter who needed their approval. I was going back as the CEO of my own life. By the time I landed in Missouri, Melanie's condition had worsened. She had been admitted to the hospital full-time. This was actually a relief. It meant I didn't have to go to my parents' house. The confrontation would happen on neutral ground, or as neutral as a hospital room could be. I drove the rental Mercedes to the hospital. Walking through those sliding glass doors felt like walking back in time. The smell hit me again, antiseptic and despair. I went to the renal ward. My parents were in the waiting room. When they saw me, they jumped up. "Valerie!" Mom cried, rushing over to hug me. She looked like a beggar. Her clothes were worn, her hair unkempt. I stiffened and didn't hug back. "Hello, Linda." She pulled back, hurt by the name, but too desperate to comment. "Thank you for coming. The doctors are so excited. They said if you're a match, they can prep for surgery as early as next week." "Where is she?" I asked. "Room 304, Dad said. She's weak, but she's awake." "Let's go," I said. We walked down the hallway. A doctor, Dr. Aris, met us outside the room. "You must be the sister," he said, shaking my hand vigorously. "I've heard the good news about the testing done in Minnesota. We haven't seen the official paperwork yet, but your mother says you're a match?" "I have the paperwork right here," I said, patting my designer bag. "Excellent," he beamed. "This is a miracle. Truly. Melanie doesn't have much time left. Maybe a few weeks without this. You are saving her life." He opened the door. Melanie was lying in the bed, hooked up to machines. She looked even worse in person. Her skin was almost translucent. She looked tiny. When she saw me, tears welled up in her eyes. "Val," she whispered. "You came." I walked into the room. My parents followed, hovering nervously. The doctor stood by the chart, ready to start scheduling. The air in the room was thick with expectation. They were all looking at me. The savior. The donor. The spare part. I looked around the room. I saw the flowers by the window. I saw the get well soon cards. I saw the fear in my sister's eyes. And I remembered. I remembered the pillowcases. I remembered the Facebook post. I remembered the years of being second best. I remembered my mother telling me to get over it. I took a deep breath. It was time. I walked over to the side of the bed. I put my bag down on the chair. I stood over Melanie. "Hi, Melanie," I said softly. "Hi," she croaked. She reached out a hand, thin and trembling. I looked at it, but I didn't take it. "I have the results," I said. Are we a match?" she asked, her voice filled with a desperate hope that was painful to witness. My parents stepped closer. "Tell us, Val," Mom said. "Please." I looked at the doctor. "Dr. Aris, strictly speaking, what are the odds of a perfect HLA match between siblings?" "About 25%, he said. "It's rare to get a perfect 6 out of 6. I turned back to Melanie. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope. I opened it slowly. "We are a perfect match," I said. 6 out of 6. The doctors in Minnesota said they rarely see compatibility this high. A collective sob of relief broke out in the room. Mom burst into tears. Dad slumped against the wall, muttering, "Thank God." Melanie closed her eyes, a smile touching her cracked lips. "Oh, thank you, Val," Melanie whispered. "I knew you would save me. I knew you loved me." "We can schedule the surgery for Tuesday," Dr. Aris said, reaching for his tablet. "We need to run a few pre-op tests on you, Valerie, but—" "Wait," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the celebration like a knife. The room went quiet. I looked down at Melanie. I leaned in close, so close I could smell the sickness on her breath. I didn't say I was doing the surgery, I said. Melanie's eyes snapped open. What? I said we are a match, I continued, my voice steady and cold. I didn't say I was giving you my kidney. Valerie, what are you talking about? Mom shrieked. Stop joking. I'm not joking, I said. Valerie stood there, looking into the big brown eyes of the sister who had taken everything from her. The room was silent, save for the beeping of the monitor. Her parents held hands, frozen in confusion. The doctor looked up, pen hovering. This was the moment she had waited 8 years for. The moment the scapegoat took the gavel. If you are still listening to this point, please help me by liking this video and commenting the number 1 below. It lets me know that you are amazing, and I understand that you are with me on this journey. Your support is a huge encouragement to me. Comment 1 so I can recognize you, and now, let me continue my story. I came here, I said, locking eyes with Melanie, to tell you this in person. Because I wanted you to know exactly why you aren't getting this kidney. Val, please, Melanie started to cry, fear replacing the relief. I'm dying. I know, I said. And that is a tragedy. But it is not my tragedy. You are the most vile, narcissistic, selfish person I have ever known. You took my husband. You slept with him in my bed. You mocked me publicly. You destroyed my life without a second thought because you believed you were entitled to everything I had. That was years ago. Dad yelled, stepping forward. You can't let her die for a mistake. I spun around to face him. A mistake? No. A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. What she did, what you enabled, was a systematic destruction of my dignity. You told me to get over it. You told me she deserved to be happy. Well, I'm happy now. I have a husband who loves me. I have 2 children who need their mother whole and healthy. I am not going to risk my life, my health, and my children's future to save the person who tried to ruin me. You have children? Mom gasped. You have grandsons? Yes, I said. And they will never meet you. Because you are toxic. You drain everyone around you. I turned back to Melanie. Did you hear that? I am a perfect match. Essentially, I am the only person on earth who can save you right now. And I am not going to. I want you to lie here and think about every choice you made. Every time you smirked. Every time you took something that wasn't yours. Now, you are paying the bill. Karma has finally arrived, Melanie. You're going to die. You should make peace with that. You monster! Mom screamed, lunging at me. You ungrateful B***tch. How can you do this? The doctor stepped in, blocking her. Ma'am, please. Security. She's killing her sister. Mom screamed, flailing her arms. No, I said calmly, stepping back toward the door. Her lifestyle killed her kidneys. I'm just refusing to be the sacrifice. I looked at my parents one last time. They looked hateful, ugly, and broken. Don't even talk to me, I said. And don't you dare ever ask me for anything ever again. Not for money. Not for the house. Nothing. We will sue you. Dad roared. We will sue you for support. Good luck, I laughed. I'm a CPA. My assets are untouchable. But I'll tell you what. The only money I would ever spend on you would be for your funerals. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Under one stipulation, I added, my voice dripping with ice. That you be cremated. And the ashes released to me. Why? Mom spat through her sobs. So you can keep us? No, I smiled. So I can promptly deposit your remains in the dirtiest gas station toilet I can find and flush you out of my life forever." The room went deadly silent. Even the doctor looked shocked. Melanie let out a wail of pure despair. I opened the door and walked out. I walked down the hospital corridor. I didn't look back. I heard the commotion behind me, the nurses running, my mother screaming, but it sounded like it was underwater. I felt a strange buzzing in my ears, the adrenaline slowly fading into a profound sense of calm. I got into the rental car. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. I checked my pulse. It was steady. I drove straight to the airport. I returned the car. I changed my flight to the earliest one out. I didn't want to spend another minute in that state. As the plane took off, rising above the clouds, I looked down at the sprawling city of St. Louis disappearing beneath me. Somewhere down there, in a sterile room, my sister was facing her mortality. Somewhere down there, my parents were realizing that their golden child was gone, and their scapegoat had finally broken the chain. I felt a twinge of sadness. Not for them, but for the little girl I used to be. The girl who just wanted her mom to love her. The girl who tried so hard to be perfect so they would notice her. I grieved for her. But I also celebrated her, because she had survived long enough to become me. I landed in Minneapolis late that night. Garrett was waiting for me at baggage claim. He had the twins with him, even though it was past their bedtime. They were in their pajamas, looking sleepy and rumpled. When they saw me, their faces lit up. "Mommy!" They ran to me. I dropped my bag and fell to my knees, scooping them both up into a massive hug. They smelled like baby shampoo and milk. They felt solid and real. Garrett wrapped his arms around all of us. He didn't ask what happened. He just kissed the top of my head and said, "Let's go home." We drove home. I carried the boys to bed. I tucked them in. Later, sitting in our kitchen with a cup of tea, I told Garrett everything. I told him about the match. I told him about what I said. He listened quietly. When I finished, he took my hand. "You did what you had to do to protect yourself, Val. You broke the cycle." "I did," I whispered. I never heard from them again. I assume Melanie passed away, or perhaps she is still lingering on dialysis, waiting for a miracle that isn't coming. My parents likely lost the house. I don't check. I don't Google them. I don't care. I have my family. Not the one I was born into, but the one I built. The one built on love, respect, and loyalty. So, to anyone listening who is holding on to a toxic relationship because it's family, let it go. Biology is an accident. Love is a choice. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Sometimes, you have to be the villain in their story to be the hero in yours. I'm Valerie. I'm a wife, a mother, and a survivor. And I am finally, truly free. Thank you for listening. As the story closes, we are left with a profound reminder of the strength it takes to reclaim one's life from the grip of betrayal and toxicity. Valerie's journey teaches us that self-worth is not determined by the approval of others but by the boundaries we set and the courage we summon to protect our peace. Her decision to walk away from a family that drained her emotionally, and later, physically, was not an act of cruelty, but one of survival and self-respect. This story challenges us to reflect on the relationships we keep and the sacrifices we make. It reminds us that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation, and sometimes, the most loving thing we can do for ourselves is to let go of what hurts us. Valerie's resilience inspires us to stand firm in the face of manipulation and to prioritize the life we deserve over the expectations of others. What are your thoughts on this powerful lesson of self-empowerment? Share your insights below or simply comment good if you found this reflection meaningful. Let's continue the conversation and inspire each other to rise above life's challenges.